Hello, welcome to another free code session. Free code session? I'm not doing a video right now, I'm doing a stream. What is my problem? I'm actually thinking about doing a couple of recorded... I forgot to get my music going here. Doing a couple of recorded videos in the near future, so maybe that was subliminally in my mind, but no, that's not what I'm doing here. I'm actually doing a stream. So to start this stream, I need to have some coffee. Can you hear that? The sweet sound of poured coffee. So good in the morning. Okay, so let me get my music started here. Okay, so it's been a little bit time since I did one of these, but in this one, I don't know if this is going to actually be a long stream because this one should be fairly simple to do. Of course, I say that and I'm going to curse myself because then it's going to take longer than I expected. So anyway, this one I thought of a couple days ago. So this is this source generator I wrote called CSLA generator serialization. So basically it's a source generator that writes a custom serializer for CSLA. CSLA has its own kind of serialization interface API, and I haven't used CSLA in a while. It's not part of what I do on my day-to-day job, but I did years ago. And one of the things that actually came up at a client, this was probably 10-ish years ago, was one of the reasons they didn't like CSLA is because the serialization was bloated. It was too big, it was too slow, and they didn't like that. So that kind of stuck with me because when somebody says something doesn't perform well, it's like, well, why doesn't it? Is that their perception? Are they biased towards something, or are they just simply correct in saying, hey, we think this could be better? So I took a look and I did see that there were a couple things that could be changed, and I was able to do a little bit of work. I think we got like either performance down by like 5% and memory consumption down by 5 or 10 or something. It wasn't a big difference, but if you had a large object graph, it did help a little bit in terms of size. But that always stuck with me because I'm like, this should be something that could be smaller. And one of the things that I realized is the mobile formatter in CSLA is heavily reflection dependent. And what it does is it will put in basically markers all over the place in the stream. It says, hey, this is of this type, and then here's the value. This is of this type, and this is the value. And I think it also will put in what property it's for as well. I'm not sure. But what I said is, if like you got 3 properties on your business object, like ID, age, and name, why don't you just assume that the first bytes are for the ID? And if the ID is a GUID, then if you're storing it as a GUID, or as a GUID, as you can store it as a byte array in the serialization stream, and then you can just assume that X amount of bytes are for the GUID. And so you could save a whole bunch of time. You can get rid of a whole bunch of reflection code and just basically hard code the paths in. But you needed something like a source generator API in the compiler to do that, which didn't exist at the time. And asking developers to hardwire that would be ridiculous. So now with source generators, I wrote this thing, and so it basically will, if I show this, and I probably have mentioned this before. If I go to my integration tests, we do business-based tests, and I go here and I say, let's go to all the implementations. You'll see that one of them is this generated code that does set state and get state, and then here's the hardwired stuff like the age property, the name property, and then this meta state is now something that's been recently added for CSLA, that values like is dirty, is new, there's a couple of other ones, and those are all now handled with this interface. I used to have to put in optimized reflection code here, and I no longer have to do that. So that's nice. So the point is that this is what the source generator generates. So all you have to do is mark your type with this, and then you have to make your type partial. And if you don't, the compiler will yell at you because it'll say, hey, there is a implementation that's partial in this namespace. Like if I do this right now, we should see, boom, yeah, it comes up and it will say, you have to put that on there, okay? So what I thought was, well, what you really want to do is have all of your types, your business object types, marked with this attribute, which again, when you're doing source generators, you need to have a marker attribute, and that's what for attribute with metadata name will key off of to start the source generation process, okay? But I don't want to go to every single business object and have to do that. So what I want to do is have the ability to say, hey, if you're a mobile object, if you derive from things like business base or command base or things like that, and you don't have this attribute on it, let me put it on there for you. And then have a code fix that will do that, and then the code fix can be solution wide. So we'll look for every single one. So you can do that as a one and done thing. And that's, to me, a really nice way to migrate or use this source generator, because you can just do one refactoring and all of your business objects will be updated to support this. So that to me is really cool. That's nice. So let's do that. Let's add that stuff in there. So actually, this will probably take a stream, maybe two, because there's some things I have to do in here. In fact, I'm going to open up another version of Visual Studio and bring up my project called Transpire, because this has a whole bunch of analyzers, code fixes, refactorings in it, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things we're going to have to do is change the package so that we have this completions, because that's where you should put your code fixes. So we're going to have to change that up first. But the first thing we need to do is put in an analysis. Yes, which can have the analyzers. They can have the analyzers put in there. Actually, what might be... No, we'll keep it to this one. Because Rox has... That's okay. Let's do that. Rox is a source generator that also has code fixes. So... we have analysis. Do we have the analyzers in here? We should. Yeah, Rocky Analyzer. There we go. So that has an analyzer. So that's what we kind of want to mimic, in that there's a completions project. That's where you put your code fixes. Okay. So what do we want to call this? I got a branch made, so we're good there. What do we want to call this analyzer? Does generator serializable attribute exist? Analyzer. Sure, that's as good a name as any. Okay. And so now let's go through the copy pasta. Looks for business objects that do not have C generate. Where's the attribute? Oh, the attribute is in this one, right? We don't reference that, so we can't do a... we'll have to do a C block. That works. Okay. So we want to derive from that. And then we want to override this. Sure. Okay. Boilerplate stuff. Okay, what are you complaining about? Oh, yep. It's okay. I'm already regretting my statement because we have to do a couple of things here. We need a descriptors folder. We don't need, but that's just the way I structure things. Descriptors. Okay, and then in there we need something like this. I was going to say business object does not have serialization attribute descriptor. Let's use big names. Okay, yeah, so let's copy this. And then we'll put this in there. And we'll take that out. Okay. And then we need this diagnostic constants. What the heck is that? Oh, we're going to need that too. Yay. I don't know why I separate these out so much. Okay, so we're going to need over here diagnostics. Okay, and so then we can do this. And then we need the help URL. I need to spend time getting that thing built. Rocks analysis. Oh, there it is. Because I do this all the time. I copy pasta stuff and I want to create a library that I can use in all of my projects so that I can share that. But I don't. I just keep copying code because, you know, reasons. Okay, the ID here, we want to say, we don't want to use CSLA here. We want to use CGSA 1. Why not? Business object does not have okay. So, wait a minute. Let's go back over here. And then we have cannot mock obsolete type descriptor. Okay, that's what we put in the name. So we're going to need something like that over here in diagnostics, except we want to call that diagnostics. Diagnostic. Don't need those. Change that. We don't have that. Why don't we have this? Descriptor, that's what we want. Okay, what's name? That's an extension method, isn't it? A really big ass extension method. Sorry, that's probably a little bit blunt. We're just going to use name here. I don't want to put in a huge name there. Or import that code over. Okay, so we have that. We have that. Help diagnostic is going to have to change because, or the helper, because that's a different CSLA generatorization. Okay, we'll have to make that document when all this is said and done. Okay, so now we can say this name and get rid of all that. And since there's only one, there. Okay, okay, okay. Now we can finally get to the heart of the matter, which is this thing. So let's clear everything out. Let's come back to the analyzer. And we want to do this. Now, I'm going to cheat because I did create a couple of analyzers way, way back, like 10-ish years ago in CSLA, when the compiler API, Project Roslyn, finally became a thing. I said to Rocky, hey, let's add some analyzers into CSLA to enforce some stuff. So this is one of them, which is this one looks to say it does an operation, create, fetch. Does it have the right attribute on it? So actually what I want to do here is I want to go to the analyzers and say, does child have attribute analyzer? So this is the one half. And this is something that I think CSLA needs to change, is that they have the analyzers and the code fixes in the same assembly. And you shouldn't do that. Now, I did that 10 years ago because I didn't know any better. And I don't think they had the best practices type of thing around analyzers and code fixes to have that in there. But now it's like they definitely recommend that you have those in two different projects. So that's what we're going to do here. So what we want to do is we want to register a syntax node action. But we don't want to have that here. We want to have a class declaration. Or arguably a record. I don't know if you could really make a record for a CSLA business object. Maybe for a read-only type? But we want to see, for one thing, are you a stereotype? And then we're not going to care about that. We want to, if you're stereotype, and then we need to say, does operation have attribute? So we look at the type, we look at the data portal operation, and what does that do? Oh, okay. So all right, that's right. Because we need to say, is this an operation by the name or by by naming convention and or because the attribute exists there. And so then we have this. This is really what we want to do is say, get all the attributes on this, which is a method symbol, which is not what we do. We do it on a type symbol. Okay, copy and pasting code. We're getting there. So we do want to say this. Okay. So if we come back here, we're going to do something like syntax kind type or can we do class declaration? Sure. We're just going to limit to classes for now. And what I want to say is analyze class declaration. And then because I like doing this, okay, you don't know what that is, but we'll get there. So we'll call that syntax node analysis. I'm going to say it's a class declaration, class node. And now we want to say, I think we're going to want to say here, symbol info as I type symbol. And it might be a named type symbol that we want to do. Use pattern matching. Except we want to say if this is, whoops, and then let's get rid of that, and then let's do that. Okay. We don't need to say that. And say type symbol here. And get rid of that. And now we need to say is stereotype. Okay, so what's that? That is a thing I added here to say let's go look and see. So we're going to need an iType symbol extension. Okay. So we can throw that on this. Oh, we already have an iMobile object. Well, we could just use that here. Is mobile object. And not type symbol as attribute. Because that's kind of what we want to do here, right? So where did we figure that out? So we look at the qualification. We don't care about naming convention. We just care about, we want to get all the attributes. So if it's a mobile object, what we want to do now is say, type symbol get attributes any Okay, so we were looking at the attribute class. And then we want to say Well, we know. In fact, we might already have. Not that. I was hoping we had already something that does what I'm looking for. But we could say here attribute class name is equal to, and then it's the name of the actual attribute, which is this, and the containing assembly you can do that, right? Yeah, name is equal to this. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to say if there aren't any attributes, then we want to mark it. Okay, and so what's the problem here? So let's change this to data. Data is not null and fine is not null and there. Okay, so now we're finally at the point where we can say you are a mobile object and you do not have this attribute on yourself. So we want to report this. That's the code fix. Let's get back to the actual attribute. Or the analyzer. Okay. Okay, so what we want to do now is I think let's now jump over to transpire, because that's probably a better. Okay. So let's do that. We want to have, because this only has one, so it's kind of easier that way. So let's put this here, and then we can say rule down here. Okay, and so then when we report it, we say diagnostic create. And we need to say the location is, do I have one here that's like a type? No. Might have to go back to rocks. Come on. Oh, it does that. Great. We're gonna need the name of the type. Oh, we need the location. I'm sorry. Context.node get location. There, that should be okay. Okay, that's good enough. That's good enough. All right, I think, again, now we're going to write some tests, but I think this should give us what we're looking for, which is if like, we have some code, we're going to check to make sure that these conditions all hold. Now, we're also going to have to do some setup here because we do not have in our test assistants anything, or we do it for analyzers. Well, I'm 5 steps ahead of the game. Okay. We're going to want to test here now for a whole bunch of stuff here. You can see here we get multiple compiler diagnostics and stuff like that, but we don't care about that. We just want to retest that, like, make sure that for our case that it's doing what we think it should be doing. Okay. So let's do that. Analyze when business object does not exist. And let's call it mobile object because that's really what we're looking for. So we don't, this is just a simple one because all we're going to say is like public class person. And this should have, this should have nothing, right? What's the, oh, we got to put async here. Okay, does this pass? And it does. Okay. Let's ramp it up a little bit. And now we want to say exists with attribute. This is another case where we want to make sure here that we're referencing all the assemblies, generator, serial, and the analyzer. Okay, good. So we are doing the right thing. Okay. We could probably go to one of our integration tests and just pick something that's simple here. And just put an age property on it. That's all we need. Except we want to have this on it. So that means we need this. So we're using CSLA. But then we also want to have that on it. And this should be fine because this is actually doing the right thing in that it has the attribute on it. It fails. The typer namespace CSLA could not be found. Oh, okay. It would help if we reference that up here as well. Good. That's good. Now what we want to do is analyze when mobile object exists without attribute. And now this should give us an error. Should give us a diagnostic. Oh, it passed. See, that's your problem. Should not have passed. We should be yelling at you and saying, hey, if you're referencing this package, it means you want to use it. So we're giving you, and we're, you know, not even I guess we could debate this, but call it an error, because this is not going to work unless you have it in there. So now we got to figure out why this didn't work. This is why whenever somebody comes into one of the Roslyn-based Discord channels and they're like, I'm building a source generator, I'm building an analyzer, I'm building a refactoring, and how do I debug this, or how do I run this and test it so I can make sure it works? And everybody says, write a unit test. Oh, that's too hard. That takes too much work. No, it doesn't. It's nowhere near as much work as if you're going to have to try to hook up to a debugger and live debug it and things like that, which you can do. But my God, it is so much simpler to go down this path. And then you can just debug your generator or your analyzer directly if you need to. Okay, so we got a class node. That's our customer. Oh, well, that's your problem. Okay. So do we have to say get declared symbol? Yes. Okay, I had it right the first time. And this should give you back a name type symbol. All right, now let's see what happens. It failed, but it failed because the type blank is not marked with generators. Yes. Okay, so let's go back in here because there's a couple things I'm noticing. We don't want to say you have to have that. Okay. And we're not getting this filled in. Probably because message args. Yeah, here's where we need type symbol name. There. Okay. So now if we run this again, the type customer is not marked with, yeah. Perfect. Now we just got to capture this. Okay, so let's come over here where we get a diagnostic, because that's what we want to pass in here to diagnostic. And we want to say the descriptor is what we want here with its ID. We're saying it's an error. The span is probably not right, but we can probably grab that from here. And this is with arguments. Customer. Okay, so we'll change that to customer. Boom. Boom. So now we got the first half of the equation solved, which is aborting test. What? Why are you aborting the test? Oh, yeah. It's all right. This is hilarious. This is awesome. the integration test project I have references the analysis project. And so I can actually test this as it really would be. So like you see, I've got a class here that has this on here. And what is this? Child business. I somehow forgot this one. It's basically saying to me, hey, you really, you don't have that attribute on here. Now, if you would do that, look, it all works. But I think this test here is, we're trying to prove a point, which is, see if this runs now. Okay, I'm going to put a comment here because I need to remind myself. This type exists without the attribute to test the case where BO does not have the attribute and the generator needs to essentially use mobile formatter to handle it. This is why the is disabled for this type. There, okay. Because I would come back to this months later and be like, why did I ignore this here? And this is why. And so yes, you can ignore it. If you really want to, you can ignore it, but don't. This is only here for this reason. Because this is something I ran into, which is, I actually have in my documentation something that's contradictory, which is it says you need to have all of your types marked with this attribute. They need to all participate. But then I say later that, well, that's not necessarily true because you could have an assembly somewhere that doesn't have these attributes on them. And you can't update that for whatever reason. And they're part of your business object graph. So I had to put in a case to say if that's true, then just use the mobile formatter and handle it accordingly. That's not ideal though, because now you're using all the bloat from mobile formatter to handle this type. But that does work. Okay. So in fact, if you look here and you go say Control F12 and you look at the generated stuff, you'll see here write mobile object. So we have a specific method in read mobile object to handle that case. Again, not ideal, but it works. Okay. Great. Let's at least commit this. 19. The analyzer is in place. Next thing, we got to do a little bit of cleanup. I do want to have rocks. We do have descriptors and diagnostics. So we do want tests for those as well, just for completeness sake. So give me a moment here. And, crap. Oh, that's fine. This one will go here. Okay, so let's come back to rocks. And let's see what we do for a test here. And we'll just copy pasta, which is what we do. I'm going to take that, do that, that. Guess what? Yep. 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 Oh. We'll get back to you in a second. Okay. And now let's look here to say for diagnostic. We'll do all that. Why are we doing all this just to get... Oh, okay. I see what we're doing here. We need a... Like if I do this... We need a type symbol. We don't care what the type symbol is. Like in this case, we're going to say foo. It doesn't even have to be a business object. We're just... Descriptor. Oh, that's going to be wrong. Okay, hold on. Nope. We want this to say the type foo. Now it should be right. Nope, still isn't right. Why is that? Oh, it is X. Right. Do we even need this invocation here? No, we don't. We just need this, right? Yeah. There we go. Okay, good. So now we have tests around everything. 19, well, added tests for descriptor and diagnostic. Okay. So that's one half of the equation. Now we want to do the code fix side. So this is where I need to do a little bit more setup because I'm going to have to update the package. I'm going to add a project. I got life is so hard. It's not, but we're good. Okay. We're good, right? Just making sure all my tests pass. And they do. Okay. Okay. So, excuse me for just one moment. Add new project. I've never looked for that, I guess, since I've installed this. Completions. I think that's what I call it here. Yeah. And so here it's a refactoring. If I go now to Transpire, it might be easier just to look at this one. So this one has code fixes in it, which is what we want. But we call it completions because that's like refactoring or code fixes. They're completing something that you want to do. So I didn't know what else to call it, so I've fallen on calling it completions. I think it's got to be standard, but we're going to change all this anyway. Doesn't matter. Okay. So if we look at this, do I still have a shared project? Yeah, I do. In this one, we don't really need that though for what I'm doing. Okay, so we're also going to want common there. Okay. So let's come over here. Let's go to completions. We don't need this. Calling it that. That. Now. Has this been updated? We're going to find out. .50. Okay. My other ones I haven't updated just yet, so we'll have that there. Common. Completions. Good. Okay. So now come back here and we look at like a deregionized code fix. Actually, we really want to look at, yeah, now we do want to look at the one that we have here, because this is actually going to show us how to add an attribute onto a type, which is what we want. Because the thing we should be putting in on the analysis side for the analyzer is the context node, and the node is the class declaration. Perfect. That's what we want. Okay. So we're going to want here completions. We're going to want to call this business object serialization attribute code fix. Oh. Wait, what? Yes, okay, does generator serializable attribute exist code fix. There we go. Okay. Is that what I do in my transpire? Yeah, okay. All right. Not entirely necessary, but that's what we do. Let's be good citizens of the world to add whatever, business object, mobile object. Okay. Supposed to add attribute. Add this. Okay. Sure, it's a batch fixer. And then we need to register. Okay. Now we're finally getting into things. Oh, fixable diagnostics ID. Of course. Of course. Is this where we're putting, because, yeah. Because we can't reference the, where's, it isn't completions. Huh? Oh, it's because it's in shared. Okay, but we do need to have the ID here, and because it's in the analysis one, we can't reference it. So we just have to keep those synced. And that's why I have the shared project, because then both of those can use it. Fine. Okay, so now we get the root. We get this. Yes. Okay. So we get the root. We get the diagnostic span. And now we're going to say here, we want the type node. Class node. Wait, where? No, stop. What am I doing? That's not where I wanted to do. I'm in the wrong project. That's where I wanted to do it. Okay. I keep bouncing around and changing. Okay, so now we want to do an add code fix. So let's do the same thing here. Just a different method to put that in here. And we want to say this is a class declaration. Class node. Okay. And then we want to have an add attribute because that's what's going to add our attribute. Class declaration. Class node. Okay, and so then here, this is where we call does add code fix. Context, root, diagnostic, method node, which we will now rename as class node. There. Should probably throw those in here now and then. Oh. Okay. We got that. Does? Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll just leave his title. It's a name. It's a thing. This is class. And the name is we want is gener. But we don't want that. We want this because that's that part. So now we're going to pass it in here. Wait, why is this barking? If it's not, then something bad happened. It's got to be the class node that we passed in. We could be a little bit more defensive around that, but we're fine with that. Okay. So we parse the name. We create an attribute list, separated list, attribute syntax. Yep, and we add that. Then we say to the new class node, we return a new root. And we want to now have this here as the title. And now we want to say, does it have the using? Because we need to make sure that you have this using up here. And we don't have has using. Yeah. Do we have that? Yes, we do. Copy pasta time. Syntax node extensions. Every time I write one of these, I'm like, I gotta get my thing made so that I have a library that has all this crap in it, and I never get around to doing it. Wait. No, this can't be in... This has to be in completions. There we go. Okay, so now... If it doesn't have that, we're going to put that in there. Oh, okay. So we want to have... What do we say here? If we don't have the using, what does that look like? Oh my god. I know, yes, I get it, but ugh. Makes it so hard to find this crap. And using statement. Fine. Okay, so now we want to put in does generator, and that's our description. Because if we had to add in, why are you using spaces? That's evil. There, okay. I think we got this now. Why are you... Okay, so now I think we have all the right stuff in place. Of course, now we want to write a test for it, or a test for it, right? Let's at least build everything. Okay, now before I create the test, I better do this before I forget, which is in the package project. If I go look like at Transpire and I look at its package project, we have a reference to that. Okay, and then we do the analysis. Artifacts bin completions. There. I didn't want to forget that because we need to have those in the package. So now Transpire does not put that there. That's fine though. What does rocks do? Yeah, we don't reference the workspaces. Okay. All right. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to add a completions test project. Sure, whatever. Except here, it's going to be like this, except completely different. We could probably... let's go back to Transpire. It's probably a better... Is it though? Is it? I don't think it is. Give me a moment here. I'm getting a little lost in my head. Fine. Wait, don't we want these to be executables now? Okay, and then completions test. We want to put that in here as well. What did I botch? What is find package references, code analysis, code refa? Okay. Would help. We had that in there. Nope, we're still missing something. Microsoft Code Analysis, C# workspaces. I thought we had that in there. I guess we didn't. There we go. Are all the things lighting up now? Yes, yes. Okay, and so we don't have code refactoring test. We can do that. Except we will call that CSLA generator. There you go. We want generator serializer attribute. We probably also want probably want to do that too. No, we don't. Do we? No, we don't need that. No. Jesus Christ. That should be enough. Okay. All right. I just want to get this test done and then I'll stop the stream. Why do you bring that up? That key binding should be banned. Okay, so now we come here. That's a refactoring. We want a code fix. Wait. We don't want a code refactoring. We want to... shoot. One moment. I copied the wrong things. Ugh. Microsoft, oh, Jesus. Oh, I didn't. Oh, God. That's the one we want. We don't care about the refactoring. That's not what we're doing here. That's the one we want. Okay. 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 Except... we want .10. There. Because we were referencing 10. Okay, now I think I can finally write a test. We want that fix. Don't have that. That marks where things are going to be. And then we want... okay, so you have to have a reference to the analysis one as well. Man, I am all over the place on this thing today. I don't think we need a reference to that. Okay. Okay. There, now we got to make the code right. So to do that, oh yeah, we're going to need CSLA shit. I'm just going to want it around the class declaration. And the fix code when using does not exist because we need it, and then we need to do this. And we should see that on it. Okay. So we are going to want CSLA referenced in here. Okay. That was a lot of just reshuffling. It all builds. Now let's see what this does. It failed. Well, that's not surprising. Oh. You know what? Let's do the little trick where we don't assume we know what the format of the code is going to be like. Why did it put 2 there? I already saw the problem. Is that it puts 2 there. Why? Why would it put 2 there? That's odd. Why would it decide to write 2? The original code does not have it in there. Yes, we know this. Okay, so the class node if I say here root toString using CSLA, yeah, it does. The attribute does not exist on there. Okay. So now we say add attribute to new root. So now if I say new root, it's only on there once, as intended. Okay. So now we say the new root is the new root, adding the using CSLA generation serializer. Still only one generator serialize the attribute. That has not changed. With the new root. With the diagnostic. Wait, why does it come through twice? Well, now we have it on there. What? Right, stop. No, it's... Oh, wait a minute. Now I think it might be... I hate this window. They gotta fix that pop-up. The type customer is not marked with gen. Yes, I know that. if I put it around the whole thing, it gets run twice. I don't understand that. We're putting it around the class declaration. But it's like the analyzer is, or the code fix is getting run twice. This isn't the problem, I just noticed that though. And then we get run twice. So I mean, it explains why we're seeing that attribute show up twice in the code fix. What it does not explain though is, why does it feel like it has to get run twice? If we look at the test assistance, we make a new code text fix. And we say run. That should only be run once, right? Yeah, it is. But for some reason, we're doing our fix twice. How? Why does it... I'm sorry, I keep repeating the same thing, I realize that, but I'm like, I really do not understand why this is needing to run twice. It's this code fixes a sync that's being called twice. Right? Yeah, it gets called. Why? Fix each analyzer diagnostic async. Does it think there's two? But there shouldn't be. There's only one. Like, we only report one diagnostic. So why would it think there's two? Hey, this is verbatim from that. Why? Put it over there. So yeah, the whole class declaration is that node. I don't understand. Wait, why did we get called like 3 times? And then we get called again. We get called again. We get called again. Well, why? I am really befuddled right now. I think I need to step away from this because there is something that is really goofy right now. And I can't for the life of me see what the problem is. I mean, it's going through, it's... Do we have, like if I go to File, let's go to Open Project Solution. Do I have, no I don't. I sometimes create a scenarios project or a solution so that I can actually see if I've got like refactorings and code fixes in place. So I could just run them in a solution referencing this stuff and see what actually happens. This one is just feeling bizarre. I don't know why it's considering that it has to add this attribute twice. There's no reason for it to actually have to do that. And so I'm kind of curious if I would add it. If I create a scenario to see if it, when it really runs, is it actually doing it twice? Because it shouldn't have to. In fact, it shouldn't. There's no reason to do that. Yeah, I don't know. I have the feeling it has to do something with where those brackets are. Right, I mean, and then it doesn't know that it has to be here. So then if I put those back in, but if I try to limit where it's going, it just won't work. It's got to be the whole thing. But if I do this, then it gets confused because then it thinks it has to add it twice, which is not what I want. It's not because it's a partial. That has nothing to do with it. Yeah. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. I don't know. I'll have to look into this on the side because I've already spent well more time on this than I wanted to. But I am stumped on this one. I don't know why it's running twice. I think what I'm going to do off camera is create that scenarios project solution and see what the code fix does in Visual Studio, and then determine if it's actually doing it twice in Visual Studio. My feeling is it's not. My feeling is that it's going to only do it once. I feel like there's something with the test here that's confusing for whatever reason that it needs to run twice. And it shouldn't. There's no reason for it to do it twice, but and I can't look at anything in the code fix that's making me go, you're running too much. That doesn't make any sense. You know? You should just add it once. So I don't know. I'll have to do some research. I hate ending streams like this, but it is what it is. And I cursed myself at the beginning of it because I said, oh yeah, we'll get this done in like one stream, no problem. And of course that curses it because then it's going to take me another stream to figure out what the problem of this is. So I'll have to look on that my own time, but I'm going to end the stream now. So thanks everybody for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, I will be doing a control stream this afternoon, maybe this evening. And then I will also be looking into this and saying, why doesn't this work? Because it should, and I don't understand why. But that's hopefully in the next stream, the next coding stream I do, I'll have this resolved and figured out. So until that time, I'm done. Thank you all for watching. Take care. I hope to see you in the future.